hardcore college football fan, this is your place to be each and every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We come your way talking nothing but college football 24/7, 365. Join me on my YouTube channel where we do it up big each and every day with positional breakdowns. That being the thing right now on Mark Rogers TV. Join me on YouTube. We just finished up recruiting season with 35 schools covered, reports from 35 schools from National Signing Day, and now we're diving into positional breakdowns with, let's see, just about 4 to 5 weeks until spring practice across the nation. And we've got reports on positional breakdowns. Just finished up with Stephen M. Smith, one of our favorites from Touchdown Alabama, talking Alabama tonight. Brandon Zimmerman from the Buckeye Battle Cry talking Ohio State. We've got posts from USC, UCLA, Alabama, LSU, Miami, and on down the line with many more to come. Join me on Twitter. Follow me there, and I will follow you back. We can debate and discuss some college football right there. My Facebook page is Mark Rogers TV, same as YouTube as well. Join me right there. On the show tonight, we want to set you up at the quarterback position at 5 programs that have QB battles underway. They include national champion Clemson. We got Virginia Tech. We got Miami. And then off to the Big Ten with Michigan and Iowa. And again, in addition to the show we bring you each and every Wednesday night, we also, of course, record segments throughout the week talking college football and these positional breakdowns. Another thing we did recently is we have matched up the conferences. So I seeded the conferences based on the standings for 2016, and this is one of my favorite projects each and every offseason, to match up the conferences. And what I did is I played a theoretical 10-game series between all the teams in each conference, and we have those results for you at YouTube at Mark Rogers TV as well. Next up, we put all the results for 2016 between the Power 5 conferences into the grinder. We put them in there, we shake them up, we bring them out, and we tell you who played the best amongst the Power 5 in 2016. On the surface for the regular season, it appeared to be the Big Ten. Then the Big Ten faltered in postseason play. The ACC took over, of course, won the national championship, and finished, 10-3, 9-3 in postseason play. And then, of course, the SEC is always a factor as well. Hopefully, we've got Mike McDaniel on board first from inside the ACC. We're still trying to work out some audio issues with Mike. Mike runs inside the ACC, so you can join him there with coverage of not only football, but basketball, baseball, and the complete look at the ACC with March Madness very soon to be underway. All right, while we wait on Mike, I think we'll talk some Miami football. We bring in a Cam Underwood from State of the U just about each and every week on Mark Rogers TV. Cam joined me the other day. We started to break down positions. We've wrapped up the recruiting class on National Signing Day. So if you not only love college football, and Miami in particular, you know what? If you don't, put that aside, because Cam is just a great listen. And earlier this week, we talked about the Miami quarterback position. Brad Kaya takes most of the Miami record books with him off to the NFL. He needs to be replaced. There is a quarterback battle in play. The guy that most Miami fans want to see is N'Kosi Perry. He's a 5-star recruit that has all the tools to be the next great quarterback in college football. Will he be? Of course, he's got to learn the offense. He's got to show poise under difficult circumstances. He's got to show all the intangibles. We know that the measurements are there. Cam Underwood from State of the U on the SB Nation platform for Miami Athletics joined me earlier this week to talk about Miami freshman quarterback N'Kosi Perry.
6'4", 180 pounds from Ocala Vanguard High School. Record-setting quarterback, broke all the records that were previously set by Dante Culpepper. Dual threat guy who can run and he can throw. I finally revealed my comparison for him, which is Marcus Mariota. If you go on the website and look at the recruiting notebooks, I have a scouting report basically profiling all of the signees in this class. And in this, I got our resident coach to make a video comparing N'Kosi Perry and Marcus Mariota. And I brought in like 3 or 4 other people because I understand that making a comparison of that level can be hyperbolic or, outrageous. And it's like, well, you're just a fan and you would. So I brought in as many other people as I could to talk about this on the strengths and weaknesses, the points of comparison, the points of dissension for that. And I really stand by that comparison. I think he's a special player. I think he can come in and start day one. He has all the tools to run RPO system that Mark Richt wants to do, including some zone read and read option where the quarterback pulls it and keeps the ball, which we know that Brad Kaaya did not do. I mean, it's talent and it's style and it's skill. So obviously the results may differ. And again, this is something that I dove into, and I had Justin DeTavio, our X's and O's guy, and a couple other coaches. That's the recruit notebook that was the most substantive, because making that comparison, I knew that I couldn't just say, hey, I think he's Marcus Mariota and keep it moving. There had to be content there. There had to be depth. And I wanted to bring in other experts in this area to really say, and some people, they agreed with me on a couple of points and said, I disagree with you on this comparison on some more points. So I'm not saying it's infallible. I'm not saying it's, without contention, because I brought in enough people, I think, to make this point in a good way. So I know that just putting the name Marcus Mariota out there, okay, he's a Heisman Trophy winner, he was at Oregon, they got to the national championship game, all of a sudden you think N'Kosi Perry is going to be the exact same. He might not fulfill his potential to this level. He might, not be able to read the defenses here. He might not get a redshirt year like Marcus Mariota did before he was able to start at Oregon, because he only did 2 years starting because he redshirted as a true freshman. So the path and progression might not be exactly the same, but there's a lot of things there on style and technique and also high school level performance that align N'Kosi Perry and Marcus Mariota very well. And I really urge you, stateofU.com, look up the 2017 recruit notebook for N'Kosi Perry. You cannot miss it. It's still up there on the website. I'm going to pin it to the front page. Go click on it, read it, watch the video, and see if you agree or not.
Of the State of the U, the SB Nation platform for Miami Athletics, joining me earlier this week to talk up the talents of one N'Kosi Perry, 5-star recruit who looks to win the quarterback position at the University of Miami under Mark Richt in his second season. Join Cam and myself. You can go to YouTube. We break down the running backs and a number of other positions, defensive end, defensive tackle, this week on Mark Rogers TV on YouTube. Let's stay in the ACC and talk Virginia Tech football with Mike McDaniel from inside the ACC. Of course, the Hokies coming off a 10-4 campaign in which they reached the ACC championship game and played a heck of a second half and coming back against Arkansas in the Belk Bowl to win it after a 24-point deficit. Mike, how you doing tonight?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Not too much. Everything's going well. Trying to keep things in order and track down people like yourself to give us the word from what's going to soon be spring camp. So we're, 4 or 5 weeks away from what could be a battle for the quarterback position, although Josh Jackson appears to be the guy in camp, I believe, for Virginia Tech. So talk about the Hokies in replacing Jerod Evans and where this situation stands as we get ready to hit the field in the spring.
Well, it's funny, Mark. I mean, not a lot of fans were obviously expecting the Hokies to be without Jerod Evans this coming season. Most expected that he would return for his senior year. But, what ended up kind of becoming the rumor as the season went on is that Jerod Evans might be looking to move on a little bit more quickly than anticipated from Virginia Tech and move on to the NFL if this season kept on progressing like it had. He had obviously a very good season in his 1 year in Blacksburg, and it was enough for him to make the jump to the NFL. The one thing that's really interesting about Jerod Evans moving on as quickly as he did is that not a lot of people had him scouted, because so many people were taken aback by his decision to move on to the NFL. But now I think as some of the scouts and talent evaluators have had an opportunity to look at his film, he's starting to emerge as a 4th or 5th round pick. And I think for Jerod Evans, that was good enough for him. And that's kind of a position that he thought he would be in a relatively weak quarterback draft, obviously. But the fact that he's moving on to the NFL kind of threw the Hokies through a loop. But I think the coaching staff was, really expecting that this could kind of become reality as the season continued to progress. So Hokies move on from Jerod Evans. Josh Jackson is the lone guy remaining in the quarterback room other than Jack Click, who really was a good ways down the depth chart and isn't expected to be a major factor in this quarterback competition. Josh Jackson was an ESPN 300 recruit coming out of high school. He's from Saline, Michigan. He had a very, very distinguished high school career, a guy who's picked up the offense very quickly and even pushed. Nobody really knew how serious this was, but even pushed a little bit for the starting quarterback job as a true freshman last season. So he clearly has the talent. Justin Fuente and the coaching staff, Brad Cornelson, the offensive coordinator, they're really impressed with what he brings to the table as a skill set, both as a runner and as a passer. Hokies also have brought in AJ Bush. He's going to be a junior this year. They brought him in from the junior college ranks from Iowa Western Community College. He also played college ball in Nebraska for 1 year, even though he didn't take any snaps there. AJ Bush is more of a running threat than a passing threat, extremely raw as a passer, but a guy that Justin Fuente was obviously impressed enough with on film and what he did as a junior college transfer coming in that he thinks that he can push for the starting quarterback job as well. And then I think the dark horse in this whole thing is Hendon Hooker. He was a 3 or 4 star recruit, depending on where you looked. At the very least, a very high-end 3-star quarterback recruit that's coming in as a true freshman, 6'5", 200 pounds. Obviously needs to put on a little bit of weight. But when you look at Hendon Hooker, his film is extremely impressive. A guy who stands in the pocket, can make all the throws, but also is a running threat as well, and had a very good high school career for him as well. So it's going to be a really interesting quarterback competition. I think if you had to pick a favorite right now and handicap it, I think Josh Jackson is probably the starter if the season began tomorrow, with AJ Bush likely serving as the backup. And Hendon Hooker, I think the best case scenario for him is that he'll serve as a quarterback for Virginia Tech down the line. But for now, maybe redshirt, put a little muscle weight on him, and hope that he can develop into a quarterback that everybody's expecting him to be. But that's obviously if the season starts tomorrow. I think now that you have an entire offseason and all these guys are now on campus, it's going to be a great opportunity to see what they've got here in a wide open quarterback competition here in the spring and on into the summer as the Hokies try to find out who their next quarterback's going to be.
Mike, I hate to go back to what might have been, but after Jerod Evans got a couple games under his belt, to look at this offense versus what we have come to get comfortable with and what a typical Virginia Tech offense has been over the last 5 or 6 years, pretty pedestrian, maybe getting before Michael Brewer with the previous quarterback. I can't remember the kid's name, who's now
Logan
in the
Thomas.
NFL like a third-string quarterback. Yes. With quarterbacks like that, not the most dynamic passing games in Blacksburg over the past several seasons. But Jerod Evans, man, he took off, and he had the wide receiver core to really supplement his skills with Isaiah Ford, Bucky Hodges, on down the line, Cam Phillips. And we really got to see a situation there at Virginia Tech where it was getting exciting to see the Hokies play on offense, and they really started to light up some defenses down the stretch. Obviously, in the second half of the bowl game, they really took it to Clemson, and we know how talented the Tigers have been on defense. And it was really exciting to see what the Hokies had in play, knowing that the Fords and the Hodges were moving on anyway to the NFL, but that they had that guy at quarterback who could possibly contend for an ACC championship, and even did this past season kind of ahead of schedule. But that's kind of lost, and as it is often the case in college football, you got to start over.
Yeah, definitely. And, not a lot of people were expecting Jerod Evans to all of a sudden make the jump to the NFL. And I think that caught a lot of people aback, but the coaching staff didn't seem all that surprised by a decision. So I'm sure there were a lot of ongoing discussions there about his future as the season kind of went along. Hokies were definitely ahead of schedule. And this is a very quarterback-friendly offense, which I think is one encouraging thing to watch as a Hokies fan as they look to break in another new quarterback, their third quarterback in as many years at the position, is that this new offense here with Justin Fuente is unlike any offense we've seen in Blacksburg in quite some time during the Frank Beamer era. Brad Cornelson and Justin Fuente coming in together, running that quick passing offense, that quick hitting offense is very friendly to quarterbacks, very easy reads, not a whole lot of stress is put on the quarterback position in that regard. And if the offensive line plays well and holds their blocks for just 2 or 3 seconds, that should be enough for the quarterback to get the ball out. It's a very quick hitting offense in that regard. And I think the fact that the running game started to improve a bit as the season went on certainly helped the Hokies as well. So I think the onus needs to be on the offensive line. They're returning returning 3 starters on the line, but they got to replace the entire right side of the offensive line as seniors Augie Conte and tackle Jonathan McLaughlin move on due to graduation. So I think that's more of an area of concern for the Hokies heading into next season, is the fact that they do have some holes on that offensive line. They got to figure out the running back position, of course, now with Marshawn Williams retiring due to his 3rd knee injury. And they're going to have to figure some things out there. They have Trayvon McMillan still in the mix. DJ Reed, a guy who's been on campus for quite some time. Shy McKenzie transferred. So, and then Sam Rogers as well. He graduated. So the Hokies have some issues there at running back, a talented guy in Jalen Holston, who's going to come in and hopefully produce for them right away at the running back position to go along with Trayvon McMillan. But I think the onus needs to be on the offensive line and a run-first offense heading into next season as they break in a new quarterback and he gets more comfortable running the system as a first-year guy under Justin Fuente's offense.
And Mike, Justin Fuente is one of those guys who has proven as a head coach to be a developer of quarterbacks. So he's a guy that knows how to groom quarterbacks, how to develop them, and build them into guys that can lead an offense and get the passing game going. So that's a good thing, obviously, in moving ahead with a new guy under center or back, most likely in the spread formation. As we look broader scale, Mike, at the ACC, obviously coming off a banner season, winning the national championship, winning 9 of 12 bowl games, just a conference that, aside from Florida State, just removing ourselves just a few years, was looked upon as, it was kind of default, the worst conference out of the Power Five. And whether that was true or not, I think it was probably debatable that it was in that discussion. And with the emergence or reemergence of the likes of Virginia Tech, in particular, North Carolina, Miami, in that coastal division, and with Clemson moving it up a notch from that top 10 status to arguably the best program in the country, the ACC just has everything on its side right now coming into 2017.
Yeah, certainly. And a really strong season, winning a national championship for a second time in 4 years. I mean, that was significant. I think when looking at the conference as a whole, obviously a lot of people were surprised that they were able to win as many bowl games as they did and kind of cement themselves as the top conference in college football this past season. The long-term prospects of the ACC, I have a little bit of concern about. Although Virginia Tech and North Carolina and Miami are kind of returning back to the landscape in the ACC Coastal, and the ACC Atlantic, of course, with Louisville, Florida State, Clemson being the perennial powerhouses that they are, consistently now, being up in the top 10, top 15 range and being in the college football playoff discussion. While I think that's good for the conference, I do think the one cause of concern, especially heading into next season, is the attrition across the board in the conference. Obviously, you look at the defending national champions now, the Clemson Tigers. They have to they have to replace so many pieces on the offensive side of the football. Of course, with Deshaun Watson highlighting the group, but then you don't look much further. It's Mike Williams, Jordan Leggett, Wayne Gallman at running back. They got to replace some pieces on defense as well. You look at Florida State, they're returning a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, so they're obviously going to be the favorite in the Atlantic Division. While you have Louisville returning Lamar Jackson, they have to replace some pieces on defense, which is a cause for concern. And then the Coastal is where the real fun starts, because I think this is as wide open a division as it's been in quite some time. Virginia Tech, obviously, all the talent that they're replacing on offense. They're defending Coastal champions. They lose Gerard Evans. They lose Marshawn Williams, Shy McKenzie, obviously Bucky Hodges, Isaiah Ford. So it's going to be a completely different looking offense next season for Virginia Tech. You look at Miami losing Njoku at tight end. They're losing Brad Kaya at quarterback. North Carolina replacing Mitch Trubisky. It's wide open, Mark, in the ACC heading into next season. And the real discussion is going to be just how good is a guy like N'Kosi Perry, who looks to be the heir apparent to Brad Kaya at Miami? How good is Josh Jackson for Virginia Tech? What's North Carolina going to do at the quarterback position? Is Duke going to return to being an 8 and 9 win team? That's another question that we're going to have to watch for. Obviously, Duke is one of the sleepers in the ACC Coastal, in my opinion, because they're obviously coming off a year in which they missed a bowl game after having that impressive string that David Cutcliffe got the Blue Devils on, in which they were a top 5 offense in the conference for a number of seasons, and a team that was competing, was in the ACC championship once, and was competing with 8 and 9 wins into really impressive bowl games for that program. They have a good young quarterback in Daniel Jones. the running back issues, the offensive line issues, the injury bug really hit them hard this past year. But I think Duke's schedule sets up nicely for them to potentially return to 8 or 9 wins, and that's one sleeper to watch in the ACC Coastal specifically. Across the way in the Atlantic, if you wanted to look at a sleeper real quick, I think NC State is a nice candidate just because they're returning a quarterback in Ryan Finley. They have some nice pieces on the offensive side of the ball, and their defense kind of improved as the season went on, even as the offense kind of fell off a little bit. So Dave Doran has that program heading in the right direction as well. And I think it's a wide open ACC heading into next season, but I do worry a little bit just because there are going to be so many newcomers that I think the conference as a whole will likely take a step back, opening the way up for, of course, the SEC to return as the top conference in college football.
Mike, we've talked football too much, I think, too many times. You knew exactly where I was headed next, and that was in the sleeper category. So you set us up with Duke out of the Coastal, NC State on the other side as your two sleeper teams, right?
Yep.
All right, Mike McDaniel from Inside the ACC. Join him right there. Football, baseball, basketball. Obviously, we're headed toward March Madness, but he's keeping us up to date definitely on what's happening in college football in the ACC as we head toward spring practice, and you may see me on there from time to time as well. Mike, we always appreciate the time. We'll see you soon.
All right, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, college football coast to coast every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We're focusing on the guy that you need to have, most likely, unless you have a great all-time elite defense, you need the quarterback in play to contend for a conference championship. Tonight, we're looking at Miami, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Michigan, and also we go to the Big Ten. And Ben Ross from Black Heart, Gold Pants with the Iowa Hawkeyes. You can catch him on SB Nation covering Iowa athletics. Ben, thanks for joining us tonight. Ben, hopefully you can hear us. Ben, can you hear me? Hey, Ben, I think your mic is muted. As soon as you get that cleared up, I think we'll be able to get you online to talk Hawkeyes. Iowa, of course, coming off an 8-5 campaign, lost a bowl game to Florida. Hopefully Ben can join us soon. We're not hearing you, unfortunately. We don't have Ben right now, unfortunately. Ben Ross joining us for the first time here on College Football Coast to Coast to talk some Iowa Hawkeyes. All right, Iowa, again, 8-4 last season. I thought that they were going to pull off a slight upset in the bowl game against Florida, and they could not generate any offense. C.J. Beathard having a horrible, miserable day in his final game as an Iowa Hawkeye, and we'll talk about, hopefully, his replacement with Ben Ross coming up very soon. My name is Mark Rogers, and I was going to give you a rundown of my YouTube channel, but we'd rather hear from Ben Ross from Blackheart and Gold Pants. Ben,
all right,
can you
sorry about that.
There he is. Ben, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. We're dragging you into football season. I know you're probably thinking basketball and what the Hawkeyes need to do to get to the NCAA tournament. How are the Hawkeyes doing in hoops this time of year?
Not great. You know, there's some learning curves. They're starting 4 true freshmen along with Peter Jock. The lone senior on this team was getting significant minutes. They're not even a lock for the NIT, in my opinion, right now. They're on a 2-game skid at the moment, but hopefully they can get it together with they have an ailing Illinois squad coming to cover Hawkeye this Saturday. Hopefully we get the first win in a couple of weeks there.
Okay, very good. Now we're going to talk football because that's all we do here on Mark Rogers TV. But yeah, I love the Big Ten hoops, and I'll be locked in here in a couple weeks when we hit the conference tournament, which is probably in Indianapolis, as it typically is. I'm going to guess. The last time we saw C.J. Beathard, unfortunately, he was being battered and bruised by the Florida Gator defense to the tune of 4 interceptions, 55 yards passing, completed like 8 of 23. I hate to take you back through it, Ben, because I thought after the way the Hawkeyes performed down the stretch against the likes of Michigan and Nebraska that they were going to put on a good show in the bowl game, and it was competitive until late in the third quarter, and then it got away from them. So before we set up the quarterback situation, Your thoughts about the program, where it stands right now as we transition from 2016 into 17?
I think, well, thanks for bringing up those harsh memories, but, something I don't need any help remembering. Honestly, I think the program's in a really good position for success right now. Right, we have Brian Ferentz coming in to run the offense. Iowa fans and anybody with a pair of eyes can see that the Iowa offense is getting very stale, very predictable under Greg Davis. And so, what a better way to replace the offensive coordinator with the head coach's son. So we have Brian Ferentz hopefully making some changes. He can get in his father's ear and tell him, not to telegraph read sweeps going to the left side of the field anymore. And hopefully, I was brought in 3 new coaches now too. We just hired 2 coaches yesterday. It became official. We got a wide receivers coach out of Northern Illinois, and NIU has always had prolific passing games. And then we have a new offensive line coach, the former offensive coordinator out of NDSU, who, if you recall, beat Iowa in Kinnick Stadium this year. So if you can't beat them, hire them, and make them teach you how to run an offense is the way we're going to see this as. And I think sky's the limit right now. I think spirits are high. We've got a lot of good pieces returning, and there is a lot more, I think, more things to be happy about than negative right now.
Yeah, on the bright side in the Western Division in the Big Ten, there is no dominant program. On the downside, there are a lot of good programs. So Iowa's just kind of in the mix with Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin themselves. You've typically got a 4-team race there in the Big Ten Western Division, and Northwestern, sometimes a wild card, can play themselves into contention. Ben, let's lock in on this quarterback position. We talked about C.J. Beathard. I got to think that you're pleased with what he did and his accomplishments there at Iowa. I believe he holds a number of records. I did see a statistic late in his career about winning percentage. He was extremely high on the list of quarterback winning percentage, if not number one, something in the 21-9 range, something off the top of my head like that. But obviously he's going to take his wares to the NFL, where he hopes to be drafted and stick with the team. Nathan Stanley is the name that I'm hearing as a sophomore who's in line to win the job. Is this a battle, or does he have the clear-cut path?
Coaches would obviously tell you a battle, but I think we all see it's a clear-cut path. On the behind Beathard on the roster this year, it was Tyler Wiegers, who is a true sophomore, and then Nathan Stanley is a true freshman, and then Drew Cook, who is a redshirt freshman. And everyone thought that Wiegers would be the one getting the garbage minutes, and he would be the clear-cut number 2. But no, in garbage time against Iowa State, Nathan Stanley was the first one to come out, and then CJ got hobbled against NDSU he missed a couple of plays. And again, it was Stanley who was out running the offense, the 18-year-old out of Menominee, Wisconsin. So I think that says a little bit about his abilities, and also says a lot about Wiegers' abilities, or maybe lack thereof, that the coaches were, it's very uncommon for Kirk Ferentz and this coaching staff to put a true freshman out on the field in any position, even kicker or punter. They're very reluctant to put a teenager out on a football field. So I think that says a lot about Nathan Stanley's abilities. And I think you'll ask anybody, he sort of holds the keys to the offense right now.
I know it probably doesn't matter, but as I'm watching the Gators and the Hawkeyes and the game starting to get out of hand, I'm thinking, where's the backup quarterback? C.J. Beathard is not in good shape. He seems like a wounded duck out there, and he seems like he's a sitting duck. And maybe not knowing at the time who the guy in place was. It's obviously Nathan Stanley, most likely. He could have been out there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, start of the third, start of the second half, and even start of the fourth quarter, Iowa was in a position to possibly come back and win this game. You could talk all about how, CJ deserved to be out there. It was a lifetime achievement award for keeping it in. Kirk even said that he wasn't going to pull CJ, but I think, not only was CJ a hazard to Iowa winning the game, he was a hazard to his own health by staying out there, by staying in the game. And I think that was a really, really, really poor coaching decision on the part of Ferentz. I understand all that CJ has done for this program, but it's his job to win football games, and it's clearly couldn't win that football game, and Iowa would have at least had a modicum of a chance of winning the game with a different signal caller in the backfield there.
All right, Nathan Stanley again, sophomore season looks to be the heir apparent to C.J. Beathard at Iowa City. Threw all of 6 passes last year. Did complete 5 in garbage time against North Dakota State in particular. Ben Ross joining us from Black Heart, Gold Pants, SB Nation, Iowa Athletics. Drawing him away from the basketball court just briefly to talk some Iowa football, and hopefully, Ben, we can get you back on here real soon to break down some positions heading to spring camp.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Ben, we appreciate the time. Have a good night.
Thank you, too.
And again, college football coast to coast coming your way each and every Wednesday night. You can catch us live on Facebook, catch us live on my YouTube channel, Mark Rogers TV, or if you miss us, of course, it's recorded right there for you on my YouTube channel, Mark Rogers TV, along with videos from all over the country, USC, UCLA out there in the Pac-12, and don't forget that we've got a sub-channel Pac-12 network, Mark Rogers TV, and a number of correspondents there as well. Mark Gordon representing the Clemson Tigers from Shakin' the Southland, and of course, he's probably got this smile on his face that hasn't left for a good 6 weeks. And it's good to be national champion, is it not, Mark?
It certainly is. It certainly is. It's something that Clemson University has been waiting for quite some time, and we're still reveling down in South Carolina about it.
Yeah, so what does that reveling feel like? What is it like to be national champion? There's only 1 out of 128 that get to say this each and every year, and like you say, during your lifetime, it's never happened. Good football programs become a great football program, and now you got the brass ring.
And, it's kind of unreal. It's a conversation that we have with ourselves frequently is, when is Clemson going to become elite? And it's a question of, okay, you get through the Clemsoning talk where Dabo Swinney's consistently put this team, we're winning bowl games, we're winning great bowl games, but when are we going to make the jump? And it really took, Deshaun Watson to come in and lift everyone's game around him. And now that you're wearing the national championship ring, you can finally put the questions away that this has become an elite program.
You can kind of keep that in the back of your mind if you're having a bad day, Mark, and think back and just realize, oh, yeah, we did it. We did it this year. We finally got there and won the national championship for the first time, of course, since 1981. The guy mostly responsible, at least on the field, between the lines, responsible for that national championship would have to be Deshaun Watson and the amazing exploits that he performed throughout his career, but specifically in the national championship game against Alabama, against what many of us consider to be the best defense, not just this year, but in the last 5 or 10 years of college football. Deshaun Watson off to the NFL draft. It's what teams do. It's what programs do. If you're truly a great program, you replace that great player, maybe not with always another great player, but at least a capable player. Hunter Johnson might be the exception, another 5-star guy who may become that next great player at quarterback for Clemson. I'm understanding that he's in line to take the job. Is it a battle, or is it a foregone conclusion that Hunter Johnson will be the guy this spring?
I actually don't think that it is a foregone conclusion. Dabo Swinney and quarterback coach Brandon Streeter were actually asked about this earlier this week. And there are 5 guys right now that are coming into camp, and they have said that this quarterback competition is wide open. You look at it, there's 5 guys contending, and there's no experience at all among the 5 that are contending. Only 2 of them were involved in playing last year. Kelly Bryant threw 9 passes. Tucker Israel threw only 4. So, you take a look at that, and it really is going to be anybody's ball game. If the depth chart came out right now, which, we know obviously it doesn't, I think Kelly Bryant would be at the top just because of his experience with the offense. But I think a name that people really need to watch out for is Zerrick Cooper. Zerrick Cooper redshirted last year, and he was a pretty highly touted quarterback coming out of that 2016 recruiting class. He's more of a dual threat. He draws comparisons to Deshaun Watson, and that's obviously large shoes to fill. But we've heard that he's got a special arm. And with all the wide receivers that Clemson has, having that special arm and being able to connect with receivers like Deion Kane down the field, that's going to be something important, where with Kelly Bryant, that's more of a question mark. We don't know of his passing ability. We haven't seen it. When he's come in the game, he's primarily a runner. In fact, I'd say probably about 80% of the plays that he ran were designed quarterback draws.
Okay, so Hunter Johnson in the mix. You mentioned Jace Bryce, Zarek Cooper. So can you give me a feel for what kind of quarterbacks we're talking about as you run down them? I know that they haven't seen much of the field, but based on what the rep was coming out of high school and based on what you've seen on film and what the scouting report is, so what kind of quarterbacks are these guys?
Well, Zarek Cooper and Kelly Bryant are both more dual threat, obviously. Kelly Bryant more running than passing. Zarek Cooper has a nice combination of both. When you look at the other three, Tucker Israel, Chase Bryce, and Hunter Johnson, they're more of your prototypical pocket passers. And with that lack of experience, the pocket passing might be something that could be potentially deemed as a bit of a problem. Clemson's losing a couple key offensive linemen. And let's not forget Wayne Gallman, who was crucial in blocking in that national championship game. He was actually a fantastic run blocker and pass blocker. Obviously not run blocker, but looking at that, Clemson may be looking for that dual threat factor, which I think maybe opens the door a bit for Zarek Cooper. Now, there is a bit of pressure to get Hunter Johnson on the field and on the field early with the commitment of Trevor Lawrence of the 2018 class. Holding Hunter Johnson back a year may, in fact, defer him from seeing the field at all. So I think there is a little bit of a pressure on the Clemson coaching staff to get Hunter Johnson on the field and on the field early. And in fact, Dabo Swinney came out and said he would not be opposed to using two quarterbacks in next year's class in a bit of a dual quarterback system. So I could see Hunter Johnson maybe splitting time with a Kelly Bryant early if he isn't deemed prepared to get the job done right away.
Mark Gordon joining us from Shaking the Southland, SB Nation's platform for Clemson athletics. I have to appreciate the competitiveness of these guys to be battling 4 and 5 deep for one of the prime positions in college football. But I find it kind of strange that guys would opt for that type of situation versus look elsewhere in the ACC. Go to Virginia, go to Duke, win the starting job, be the guy. No doubt. It's just kind of it speaks again to the competitiveness of these guys thinking, hey, I can do it. I can line up against the top recruits in the country. I can make it happen. I can be the next guy, and I want to lead a winning program where I'm going to be surrounded by the best talent in the country. And it's gotten to that point with Clemson where we look across the country and we decipher what personnel has been lost to the next level and who's going to be down because of it. But some programs, Alabama, Ohio State, Florida State, even when they lose double-digit starters, there's just the assumption they'll reload, they'll be fine. Clemson's reached that status, right, Mark? We see it at the NFL combines, especially at wide receiver and defensive line, where the group has just been so loaded over the last few years that you just figure, well, they're gutted at that position, but it's not the case.
Yeah, you've seen it particularly with the defense. Last year was the second year in a row where Clemson lost 8 of their defensive starters to either the NFL or graduation. And you see your concerns coming in, a lot of concerns about the cornerbacks and the secondary. There's a great turnover at linebacker and defensive line. And I think a lot of credit needs to go out to Brent Venables with his recruiting and all of Clemson's recruiters, where the mantra really has come reload and next man up. Now, you saw a relatively small recruiting class for Clemson in 2017. And I think you may see a relatively small recruiting class in 2018 as well. Dabo Swinney came out and said, we're not a program that's going to take players and give up on them. I think that's why you see so few transfers out of the program, so few people who give up football. You saw a few in this offseason, but Dabo Swinney's committed to his players. He's not going to give up on them, and he's going to give them every opportunity to play. And we haven't seen the rollover yet on offense aside from wide receiver, and this year is really going to be the opportunity for the players that weren't playing to step up and shine. You're losing Mike Williams. You're losing Jordan Leggett. You're losing Wayne Gallman, Deshaun Watson. But Clemson is relatively deep at the wide receiver position. They were light at running back, but they have 2 running backs in C.J. Fuller and Tashard Choice that are ready to take over. So the coaching staff really feels like, yes, we're losing some key components, but it really is next man up, and that next man up has the talent to make a huge difference with this team.
Mark, nice job. You did some heavy lifting for us and breaking down the Clemson quarterback position and the offense in general. We appreciate it. Mark Gordon from Shaking the Southland. Mark, we invite you back to break down positions as we get closer to spring practice.
Mark, looking forward to it. I'd love to be back on.
Very nice. Mark Gordon, again, from Shaking the Southland. You can join he and the rest of the staff there. Ryan Cantor, one of my buddies from Shaking the Southland as well, to break down Clemson football. All right. We want to let you know that Mark Rogers TV College Football Coast to Coast brought to you by GoDaddy. Definitely one of our friends of the show. You can catch that domain name that you need to build your brand, to build your site, attract views to your site. Lock it up for even greater discounted rates when you use the Mark Rogers TV promo code. So there's a number of which to choose from. So one involves 30% off new products. That's a special GoDaddy rate for just Mark Rogers TV here. Promo code CJCMR30. Also, 99 cents off .com domains. Promo code there. You see it there, CJCMR99. And finally, $1 per month economy hosting with a free domain. Promo code CJCMRLW. If you didn't catch all that, don't worry. I'll have it at my Facebook page, Mark Rogers TV, and also available on Twitter as well. We'll get that information for you for those GoDaddy Mark Rogers TV offers. Also like to tell you about a new sports app that puts you on the sideline, calling the plays, making the decisions that matter. It's called FireFan. Download the app for free. Play along with your game of choice. So, football season's over. Okay. If you're like my son, you're in love with the NBA. So you can play FireFan with the NBA, the NHL, and a whole lot more. Predicting what play is going to be called in what situation. You can also make predictions before the game. So obviously the play calling applies to football, but we get into basketball, baseball, the other sports, not so much. But you make predictions before the game. Who's going to score this many points? Who's going to make this many shots? How many points are the Warriors going to score in the first half? All those things. Use your knowledge to win some money. Strategize with the coaches and win big. Go to FireFan, download the app, and use promo code YouCanPlay. I'll supply the link there as well on Facebook at Mark Rogers TV and also on Twitter. And what happens there is you don't even have to remember the promo code. You use the link. It's already typed in for you. That's right at FireFan. And I know it's cold out, but you still wear the T-shirt underneath the sweatshirt, right? And let's be optimistic. In about 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe you get the T-shirts out and you get to wear them outside even. All right, for you friends that we have watching college football in the South, you don't know what I'm talking about. You've only heard the stories. Well, you buy your T-shirt, you go to Breaking T, and again, I'll have the links available, just a number of T-shirts available, mostly highlighting the 4 college football playoff teams from this past season. Alabama, Fear the Process, Bring Your Own Guts, Clemson. We've got a Washington T-shirt. We've got an Ohio State T-shirt, and also those crazy Western Michigan former PJ Fleckers, who's moved on to Minnesota. But Western Michigan, we've got a T-shirt representing Western Michigan as well right here on Mark Rogers.